How many channels do you go on live with, Dave?
Oh, I
When you
only
go,
have one.
just
I only have one channel, but I also don't really go. I don't live stream almost at all.
okay. How you been? How's the family, bro?
Pretty good. Thanks for asking. Yeah, everybody's
Good,
solid
man.
here.
I'm happy.
hmm
It's good to see you.
Good to see you as
I
well.
really, I'm gonna set up that thing with Godfrey where he's driving me crazy.
Cool. Yeah, just give me some time. It's
Yeah,
on my
yeah,
to-do list to do a moon landing denial debunk, but I have to actually get to it and go through all these dumb talking points.
yeah. I get it. I get it. I'm just happy we can get to it
Yeah, for sure. At some point.
because he constantly does this thing with me. I just have doubts. I'm just asking questions.
Yeah,
I'm like,
and ignoring answers. Yeah.
I go, you understand that this is what? There's a guy. This guy has a great channel. I forget his name, but he does a whole. Come on, Instagram, shit. Um, he does a whole thing on like how the whole moon landing thing. There's actually a guy who actually worked for a rocket company.
hmm
Wasn't a scientist or anything, but he just worked for the company and he got fired and he wrote a book and then you know how the internet finds it,
hmm
and then like this guy goes into the actual origins. I'll send you the video because it might help you with some of the information might help you with the doing your video.
Sure.
Come on, fuck, right? But it was like, okay, that works. Okay, I'm up. Good. Um, let's see if this one goes. And then people found this book later, and they then and then they internet grabbed it, and then it got all crazy, and they talked about how, and then he reissued the book, and then somebody picked it up, and it just kind of everything kind of went to shit. But let me see. All right, let me give it. Everybody's coming in. Let me just I'll play my intro music, and then we'll. You think you know about relationships, but you're wrong. Listen, there's no magic bullet. I'm teaching life skills. When you're sick, you need medicine. It don't always taste good, nah, but it'll get you better. You need this medicine. Yeah. It ain't gonna always taste good, but this is what you need. Men and women, bottom line, we need to have the conversation. Your partner wants to give up control, but only if you know how to drive. This is about being the best you could ever be, whoever you are. I don't care if you're a man, a woman, LGBTQ, space alien. I'll save anybody. I don't care. I'll teach a hedgehog how to have a threesome.
What do you mean by that?
Look, you don't have to listen to me, but you're wrong. Listen, I know I'm great. And I know you're thinking, Dante, there's no way I could be like you. Yo, what up, everybody in the stream? Because you know who I was? What's going on? Before I was me. I was Special show tonight. I'm gonna get right into it because I don't want to waste any time on anything. Tonight we got Professor Dave in the building. Flat Earth and all things nonsense debunking.
What up?
Thank you. What's up, Dave? How you been, man?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. So I wanted to bring you in. So let's get into it because people are coming into the time. I mean, my regulars, if y'all can hear me good on the stream, please give me a thumbs up. Please give me a thumbs up, please, if y'all are in the streams. Big shout out to Woeful of Average, GC54, Matt Oliver, Bud, Pilgrim X, anybody who's in the comments in the band, please give me a thumbs up if y'all hear me good. Just want to make sure we're going out good. So I haven't spoke to you in a while, Dave. We've been texting a little bit here and there, but I wanted you to bring you on. And this is an interesting thing because I have a relationship show. It's basically a relationship show, managing relationships. But I think thank you, Pilgrim X. Thank you, Bad Moms, Sanju, and B. I wanted to bring you on because I thought you could give me some insight on relation. I know this is not your thing,
Yeah.
but
I can try. I mean, I
you
can
know,
give you my opinion on whatever you want. Yeah.
well, it's also because I think one of the things that like so my background is, I've been doing relationship advice for about 12 years, and I was even doing it before. And One of the things that I used to talk about that I did some research on it, but I mean, you kind of the guy, you're my go-to guy. So um, there is an instinctual kind of format when it comes to relationships. In terms of, especially mammals, there's pair bonding and dopamines and the dopamines that we feel when what we feel in love, and I think we could even reduce love and attraction to a chemical. It's actually a chemical response, right? And I think it's also connected to, or at least I believe it's connected to, the instinctual way in which human beings have been on this earth for 200,000 years, roughly. Yes.
Yeah, I think 300,000 be the oldest remains that we have right now. Yeah.
Okay. And so people are choosing. It's an interesting thing because the internet kind of has this idea that everything's going to shit. Men hate women, women hate men. This whole red pill thing. I know that you've debunked some of these idiots too. But I don't think what you don't know is that, unbeknownst to me, I kind of started that. Like,
You did tell me this whole origin story, I think. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, but I think one of the things that I just don't, I think where the disconnect was, I think there's a level of empathy that human beings have developed in order, or I guess, rather than use it as empathy, a cooperative nature that helps societies survive. So, I've done some research on this, and if I'm off base, please let me know.
Hmm.
So I was the idea of paternity and possession and those things. My understanding is that didn't even start until maybe 10,000 years ago, when we stopped being hunters and gatherers and we started putting stakes down and farming and the whole agricultural aspect of things is because and I'm trying to be as succinct as possible. When we decided, okay, this is my land, the whole idea of
Yeah.
possession, um paternity became important because of resources. So you here is as a and if we think of ourselves as an just a living organism, not orgasm, living organism. Let's see where my head is at.
Yeah. That's a lot sexier version. Yeah.
But so now paternity matters
Yeah.
because our resources, our food and our resources, we want it to go to our descendants, to the
Yeah.
extent, because real mortality is the extension of our DNA to the next generation.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think that once agriculture, large scale agriculture was developed, then civilizations became more sedentary or in one spot. And then, large communities, cities start to form. And then if you're in one place and you start gathering resources, then it matters. Their lineages arise and who you bequeath things to becomes important. So, yeah, I do think that that's the genesis of caring about paternity and lineage. I think there's some evidence that older, previous hunter gatherer communities were not as concerned with paternity, and in fact were a lot less monogamous and kind of would be with
Maybe
many partners
communal.
to try to conceive. I think that in some cases some believed that when you tried to a woman would literally make a baby with
Yeah.
cum, right? And just
Yes. Yeah.
get a lot, and
That
I'll
was
get
the
from the smart
conception.
guy and then the strong guy and then
Yeah.
I think there's some evidence for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually a
The
tribe that was the belief system. And
Yeah.
even when you talk about, just hunt, like nomadic peoples, like if they killed an animal everybody ate. It was so
Mhm.
this communal thing, and you even have some tribes that would breastfeed each other's
Right.
baby. It was just like a community. It's about a more communal aspect of relationships, just amongst everybody. And it's funny you mentioned that. I was going to say that the amount of cum would make that was the baby was they believed that the the
Right.
cum baby was made of cum.
Corresponded to the size of the yeah.
Right, and so
Yeah.
it was, "I'm gonna get the strong guy, I'm gonna get the smart guy, I'm gonna get," like, so those characteristics were supposed to be in the cum,
Yeah.
and it's, I think
And in
that
that way, I mean, hunter gatherers were therefore a lot more egalitarian and in an odd way, I feel like many men had more access to women in that way. It's kind of the antithesis of like the current incel
right,
community where there's a lot more cohesion to the community and it's not as much just coupling off and then excluding those who are regarded as not as unfit for to mate and things like that. So yeah, it's definitely fascinating. I don't know too much about it, but I have heard also all those things that you said, and I think people have paraphrased
yeah,
"sex at dawn" and "ethical slut" to me, and I'm like, I don't even need to read these. I already know all this is true, and I agree with you. That's totally fine.
right,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
alright, and so one of the things that I think about, when I'm giving guys and women and men advice, because there's always this thing about, like, the internet will have you thinking that, men hate women and women hate men. Meantime, I mean, like I do stand up comedy, and when I go out and I perform, it's the whole place is full of couples. There's people,
Hmm.
so people and there's people, so somebody's fucking. Like people are definitely fucking, and they're having
People be
babies.
fucking. Yeah.
People be fucking, and not only that, but I think and we're having children. Like we are in uh no I guess, fear of us going extinct, at least not by I mean, I know that birth rates are going down, but we got a lot of people, maybe more people than we have resources to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, there's 8 billion plus of us. I don't think that we're. I mean, I think people tend to overestimate the problem of overpopulation. I think that we'll be fine, but no, I definitely we're not going. We're not in decline, not
Right.
by a long shot. Yeah.
Right. So people be fucking. And I think that, but I think that, so can you just expound a little bit on on evolution and how, because I don't think people understand the evolution of things is how we adapt. And there's these things that we like evolutionary science doesn't take anything away. So for instance, I mean, like I always use the example of like when we look at people look at a plug, like an electric plug, and we see eyes in the mouth and a nose with the
Hmm.
plug, or that is something that I've heard talk about, the scientists talk about, that was our ability to see faces to as a survival um mechanism, so that we didn't become prey. Can you kind of
Yeah, I've heard something like that. That our brains are sort of hardwired to recognize facial features. I mean, it may just be as much as so infants can be drawn to their parents, their mother specifically,
oh wow,
as
I didn't even
something
think about
maybe.
that.
Or yeah, I don't know if it's related to like spotting a tiger in the in the bushes or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, human psychology is very complex, and
Well,
there are certain behaviors that can be selected for. And as you were saying earlier, I mean, I think that pair bonding and a lot of these aspects of human behavior benefit make it more likely that progeny survive, right? If the two parents want to be together and also love the child, right?
right.
Obviously for a mother it's biologically extremely strong. For a father also can be. I think that's maybe more influenced by what society they're in, but
Mhm.
definitely, I feel an innate love for my kids. I think my wife has that much more strongly, but
Right.
It's there for me too. So all of these are things that, right, what evolution does is it favors traits, be they anatomical, psychological, behavioral, what have you, that increase the probability of the generation and survival of offspring. That's all it is, right? It's a
Right.
completely blind process. So
Right.
that has definitely molded human psychology and human behavior. There's no doubt about that. So yeah.
And I think that so, but I think what a lot of times people don't really have a an understanding of that once we achieve those, once we have that trait or something, the only time that trait goes away is if it is counterproductive for the survival of the species. So we gain these, so maybe we, you know, if we speak of it like a maternal love for our children, however that is chemically produced or whatever, it's not something we lose unless for some
Unless it's
shape.
selected against, yeah, unless yeah, and humans are not really any longer significantly participating in natural selection. I mean, because we've developed this modern society around us where we, survival of the fittest, or doesn't necessarily really apply to modern
Right,
human society in the way that it does for organisms in the wild. Um,
right,
but yeah, so traits and behaviors can subside if they are selected against, or at the very least if they are no longer selected for, right? If you have a neutral trait, that can
right,
also very slowly go away, because if there are mutations that crop up that negate that behavior, it's not statistically significant, so things
right.
can go in that direction, but yeah.
But if it's not, if it's something that doesn't, you just kind of gain you gain this trait and then you don't lose it, and then you have, so one of the things that I thought was, so I'm always talking to guys, and for some reason, I don't know whether it's scientific or not, but a lot of it has to do with me, just my experience and the questions and stuff. And you start to see these patterns, right? But something that I really what I thought about early on was, what about the instinctual traits that create the attraction that create. I mean, I've even saw this thing where buzzards, or will like the redness of the hood of buzzards make them more attractive to, so that they can mate. And so some buzzards that don't have that bright red, sometimes they would stick their head in carcasses so that they had this bright red hood, which would attract other. And so you see this in all mammals, and I think sometimes we feel as though that we feel like we're so advanced and so smart that these instinctual beds that
Mhm.
exist and that have always exist, it's difficult sometimes when that seeps through what we would consider that cognitive understanding of, monogamy and marriage and all these cultural things, when we don't have I think, like, so people, we still have the ability to digest animal proteins. You can choose to be a vegetarian, but
Mhm.
you don't lose your ability to
Yeah.
digest proteins. um go ahead.
Yeah, so you see this in any species that are sexually dimorphic. Sexual dimorphism is a response to sexual selection. So that's where males and females of a species begin to diverge in their features, both physical and behavioral. So you see this a lot with birds, definitely. So males will often have this bright coloration, or in certain cases, like a peacock with this very
Right,
ornate plumage, and that goes along with songs and dances and things. And it's not always males, right? There's other species where the female is trying to get the attention of the male. I think I don't know what the breakdown is. It might be way more common that males do that along
hmm,
around the animal kingdom. Um, but yeah, we we there. the human brain is got this ice cream scoop thing. You've got the inner scoop and then a middle scoop, and so we have this, the cortex, and that's the house that houses our logical faculties and decision making, all these things. But all the rest of the brain is still there. You still have that kind of like core lizard brain,
Yeah.
and a lot of our emotions are regulated there, and emotion is deeply intertwined with desire and all these things, and so I yeah, I think it depends how well you can self-analyze. I fancy myself quite adept at self-analysis, so I tend to be hyper aware of why I want what I want, why I do what I do, and I'm
Right.
pretty good at parsing out like what tier it's coming from. Like this is
Yeah.
really, really primal Dave, and
Yeah.
then this is a little more analytical Dave, and it's fine as long as you know what's going on because you want to be able to not be a slave to it. You don't want to be a slave to your baser instincts, but to
Right.
pretend they're not there is foolish. You're just setting yourself up for disappointment, right? We are what we are. We can do whatever we can do with what we have, and try to make the right decisions and be moral and make decisions that'll make us happy, the happiest we can be. But
Yeah.
there's stuff pretty deep down in there that's not going to go away. So
Yeah, it's funny is a lot of times I will do I guess what I would say is the relationship consulting in terms of like a guy will break up with a girl or he'll lose a girl and so a lot of times I would explain to him is in terms of pair bonding and I don't know the scientific part of it, but if you're dating somebody for 3 years, you subconsciously you know how they smell, like you know how they smell, not that they stink, but they have their body has a smell, the tone of their voice, these are all things that we get very comfortable with, and then all of a sudden the relationship breaks off for whatever reason, and then you have this kind of dread about this thing that you're so accustomed that makes you feel comfortable
mhm.
because you're changing that homeostasis state, and it becomes something that, well, like, wow, I don't, I'm so accustomed to this person be there to come further up there, and I understand that's cultural, but I think it's also chemical as well. I mean, do you think I'm off in that, or
No, yeah, I mean, all feelings are chemical in
yeah?
basis in their basis, and I mean, yeah, it's not that weird to say that we get used to our partner and then feel distress when that's gone. Right, our comfort zone, our sanctuary, our habits, our
Hmm.
routine is upheaved. Yeah, that can definitely be distressing, especially if you didn't want the relationship to end. Even if
Right.
you wanted it to end, it can still be
Yeah.
distressing. But especially if you didn't, then
Yeah.
yeah.
I like, so I'll find, and sometimes, a lot of times when I find myself is when I'm counseling a dude and he's going through a really bad breakup or whatever. I a lot of times, like I love her so much. I I loved her so much, and then I'll ask him, well, what did you love? Like, because usually the consultation will start with it'll start with these complaints, well, and this is male, female, both sides of it. So I don't want it to make this, because I try to stay away from this red pill thing, but I've counseled women too, where they go, well, the guy is abusive, or
Mhm.
he's dismissive, or he's not intimate, or he's cheating on me, or he's disrespectful, and all these things on these cultural norms. But when and they'll start off with these complaints and this and that, and then they'll go, but I love him so much, and I mean, it just hurts me so much, and a lot of times it's that pair bonding that I don't even think that they're recognizing, because we tend to think that we are cognitively above that lizard brain that still exists.
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, they call this sperm versus egg economy in terms of approaching pair bonding. I think that one could say that women tend to be more attached and more devoted to the idea of a specific person needing to be their partner.
Mhm,
That may be why a lot of women seem to like tolerate bad situations,
mhm,
potentially even abusive situations. They just kind of fixate on this is the partner. It's about, yeah. men with sperm and women with eggs. It's just about how much time, from an evolutionary perspective, how much time and energy is devoted to our gametes. Right? Men
Right.
just ejaculate, make sperm, and toss it
And
out.
keep it
Women,
moving.
yeah, women have a limited number of eggs, and they must be fertilized, and then they have to house the embryo and the fetus, and then eventually inevitably care for it and everything. So that aspects of that biology seep out into human psychology as well, obviously.
Right.
So mhm.
I I feel like it's difficult, and one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on here because I don't speak about it in this kind of eloquent scientific way, and so sometimes I think what I'm taking as being I'm misogynist in this, but biologically we are distinctly different in the way that we operate and the way that we've developed, and to say that somehow that becomes this kind of situation where you have to worry about how you're taken. Are you being misogynistic? Are you being
Right.
so chauvinistic? And I think that one of the things that I say, that the analogies I use, if you have all four of your limbs and tomorrow you lose your arm, right? Your your life is distinctly different. The way that you operate through your life is distinctly the way you pour juice, if you're right-handed and you take a piss. I mean, all of these things change in a
Hmm.
different way. And it's interesting that people conceptually can understand that. But then when you say, well, you have a vagina and gametes and eggs, and I have a penis, and to say that that's now, I'm not denying the spectrum of gender and that everybody's not that way. But I mean, can you speak to the fact that it is a thing? I mean, I think there's this thing where people want to
Yeah. Male and female psychology is different. The male and female brains are you know uh, there's a differentiation in the way the male and female brain develop in utero. I mean, yeah, that's true, and it has nothing to do with like gender and transis and all that stuff. And those are all spectra, and there are many ways that people can be. And it doesn't mean that all men are a certain way and all women are a certain way. We're just identifying trends, right?
right,
Bimodal distributions. Very, very large percentage is over here. A very large percentage is over here, and then there are
right,
many outliers on either side and in between. The only way to slip into misogyny or sexism or um, anything like that is if you say all women are like this and
right,
all
right,
men are like this. That's not what it is. We're just
right.
saying this is a tendency, this is a trend we see in the biological world. This is how people tend to be, and yeah, that's all it is.
But then it also becomes like this lack of acknowledgement of the biology of it and the science of it because people have whatever agendas are, and all I'm saying is that you have to take this into consideration. It's an interesting thing, and because I I've counseled thousands of dudes and maybe not thousands of women but hundreds of women, and all of the women are the same, and I mean, they're not all the same, but I'm saying the vast majority, like you said, the vast majority of the men are the same.
You can
The vast,
identify trends. You can
yeah.
identify general trends. That's
Thank
totally
you for
fine.
not
It's totally
keeping
fine
me
to
from
make
getting
an
in trouble.
observations, right? Observations cannot be discriminatory, right?
Right,
I mean, unless you're lying to yourself about what you've observed to fulfill an agenda. If you're just genuinely observing, out of the 100 men that I've talked to,
right.
87 of them reported this concern or behavior or whatever it is, and then same with females, right? We're identifying a trend, and it doesn't mean that it's going to apply to everybody, but it's just something that you're observing. It's fine.
That's dope. That's dope. Thanks for not getting me letting me get in
Yeah.
trouble. The other thing I was thinking about is so because we've created this advanced society, you don't get I think when we were talking about when we're hunter and gatherers, or even before that, the women, they want to pick the stronger male or the more virile male. There's safety that comes into play as safety and strength,
Yeah.
and you find this even today that women are attracted to guys with muscles and height,
Tall.
and all these things are just
A height
again,
fetish is extremely common, I think, among
yeah,
women.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Women fetishize height. Absolutely.
And do you think that's more cultural, or you think that's Uh,
I would suspect it's more biological than cultural.
yeah,
I can't really see. I mean, it's probably culturally reinforced, but it's
right,
biological in origin. Obviously, I mean,
right, right.
everything about what being attracted to breasts and a certain figure, and there are cultural components, right? There are things like we 100 years ago we were really attracted to
Yeah,
pale skin, and now we're more
yeah,
attracted to tan skin. That's obviously cultural, but
right.
there are definitely there. It's primarily biological. These things, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And I think that just to not to go into these situations, and then you have these rush of emotions, and then not take into consideration the biology of it, the instinct of it. I think it's interesting what you said is that you have these three layers, and you are
yeah,
very self aware about where these emotions are coming from. But it also allows you to kind of gain mastery over your life in terms of where you the direction that you
yeah.
pick and the choices you make.
It's okay if you're a woman and you think, "Well, I'm really attracted to that guy because he's so tall."
Right,
That's fine, right? You
right,
you don't judge yourself and say, what a horrible person I am." No, it's
right,
that's a feature that you are innately attracted to. What
right.
you can then do with that is add a layer of an analytical layer on top of that and say, "Should I really be selecting a mate
Right,
exclusively on this feature? Probably not." So
right,
let's allow that to be one feature among
right,
many that I consider, and then I'll make an informed, mature decision about who I want to, mate with,
yeah,
or try to have kids with, or marry, or whatever.
right, right.
Just be a master of it. Don't deny
Yeah,
it.
and
Mhm.
yeah, because I think if you deny it, then you don't have any control over it, and it
Yeah,
controls you.
yeah,
So, I
definitely.
mean, I've seen lots of guys who are super promiscuous. And
Hmm.
sometimes it's almost like they're trying to prove their masculinity as opposed to they're not even dealing with what's going on. And that might actually be psychological because I have friends that are just they're super promiscuous and just woman and that woman and then these women become but they almost become the validation for these psychological
Yeah,
insecurities.
I think
Is
that's
there
what
a
it is.
biological is there a possibility that there could be a biological origin in that or
Well, that seems pretty mixed. That seems like it might lean a little bit more cultural. I mean, I would say I had a phase in my 20s where I was fairly promiscuous, and I
you
think
was knocking it down, Dave?
I
You
was
was
trying my best. I
you
mean,
was putting up stats?
but there was absolutely it's a very large component of that was self-validation for not, when I was younger, when I was a kid, just having trouble with girls, stuff like that.
Right,
Then
right,
you get older and have find yourself that you have access. There's some reciprocation here. You take advantage of it, and I mean, not take advantage. I mean, you
yeah,
fulfill the desire.
right, right,
Um, and I think that is largely cultural because we place so much emphasis as a society. In order to be happy, you got to have the relationship, you got to get the girl, you got to get the guy, all this, whatever it is.
right,
So if you feel that you're denied that for any, stretch of time,
yeah,
of course you're going to want to, validate yourself later.
right,
But it's not entirely cultural. I mean, we do
right,
seek sexual gratification, men in particular, probably more than women, I would say. I don't think that's
right.
that taboo to say. So yeah, I don't know.
And I think also that we talk about the testosterone levels. It says I'm 58 years old and I'm actually doing I do the yam court pellet, which is kind of the natural form to kind of boost your testosterone because if my age, I found that I've done the testosterone shots, but it thickens the blood and then you got a blood dump. Otherwise, you can
Oh,
get a stroke from
okay.
because I mean I didn't know if you knew that, but it
Never. No, I'm not aware of all this stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
lucky you, Dave.
I'm 41. I'm right behind you.
But yeah, you do the synthetic testosterones and stuff like that. You thickens the blood, and then you have a higher chance for stroke and high blood pressure and stuff like that. But
So it's not testosterone then. So what is it exactly?
well, it's it's sort of a natural. Um, I'm not sure if it's not a direct testosterone, but it's something that enhances your ability to produce.
Oh, okay, okay.
But they it's like a pellet. They put the
Mhm.
pellet. It's kind of like I forget what they call it. Depo-Provera, which is the pellet they put in women's arms for birth control, where they don't
Mhm.
have to take the pill. They just put a pellet in, or they put an insert in it. It's like that. But it's but the testosterone of the at the time when I think you reach your peak at like what 18, 19 with where your testosterone is higher, and then it starts to decline,
Something like that. Yeah, it's
something
younger
like that.
for men, yeah.
Much younger for men, and so also the aggressiveness. Because I know people. I have a few trans friends who made that uh who made the we're doing like testosterone therapy, and who was she before was she was like, I'm looking at women, and I just want to fuck, and and just this aggressiveness. And so I mean, even when we talk about like roid rage and stuff like that, is this kind of
Mhm.
chemical induced masculinity that happens. And I think to not, I mean, we talk about, as a man transitions to a woman, or a woman transitions to a man, a woman takes estrogen therapy, and it softens the skin and softens the thing. It's just a weird thing that can you talk a little bit about the testosterone level and the aggressiveness, and that leading to promiscuity as well?
Not specifically, but hormones are signaling molecules that are inextricably linked with many, many, many physiological processes, right? You have these small molecules that travel around in the bloodstream, and they interact with particular receptors at particular times that elicit these cellular cascades that start gene expression. So, during puberty, obviously, this is what kickstarts gene expression to make the body change in a certain way, and then obviously has an influence on psychology and behavior. So no, I mean I can't speak to ultra specifics, but
Right, right,
these signaling molecules, there are many different hormones that we all have, and also we have. It's not that males have only testosterone and females have only estrogen.
right. There's this balance,
They're in
absolutely.
both, yeah. But yeah, that's yeah. It's I mean, we're biochemically bound to certain psychologies and behaviors.
Certain
Maybe not
proclivity,
bound, but
yeah.
sort of set up for.
Definitely pushes us in that
Yeah.
way, and
Well, you
it
said something very interesting about. You're talking to men who are overcome with desire, but then that's linked to aggression for them. That I don't necessarily follow. I feel that they are not the same and can be decoupled. I find myself to be overcome with desire quite frequently. I'm a lustful person, but I'm
right.
not aggressive, and
Well,
my
I don't
lust
think
is not.
I didn't mean it
Right, right.
aggressively like that. I meant aggressively, like, pursuant of women and pursuant of
Got
sex
it.
in that way. Just what I guess lustfully would be a better
Okay.
way. I mean, but I've like when I was younger and I was powerlifting, I've done cycles of different illicit, steroids and anabolic steroids and stuff. And there's definitely, I mean, I've never been like an aggressive kind of a mean, like a crazy,
Yeah.
but I've seen guys who were on the juice where they were nuts. I mean, they kind of already had that, and then it just enhanced this kind of angry kind of thing, and they would get into fights and just be super aggressive. I mean, we there's actually some pro wrestlers that kind of snapped and lost their shit, and
Yeah.
and had some really bad physicality. I mean, I think the guy was Chris Benoit, kind of freaked out and killed his family and shit like that. So he kind
Okay.
of lost.
It's pretty
Yeah, I
bad.
mean,
Yeah,
but we all
emotions are chemistry, and
yeah,
if you alter levels of specific chemicals that are intimately linked, whether we're talking about hormones or also neurotransmitters, right?
yeah,
Neurotransmitters are key signaling molecules as well, right? There are these very particular sets of signaling molecules. There are a lot of molecules in our body, but specific sets of them that, even in small concentrations, elicit these cellular cascades that amplify a signal and then cause these very broad a broad suite of physiological responses.
right.
So
I think what I meant to say also is that even when you if you did people were bodybuilding and powerlifting and stuff, you also had estrogen blockers. Like
Mm,
you could take estrogen blockers because of the fact that a lot of times when you decrease the when you increase the testosterone, right, the body would produce higher levels of just we're trying to find this homeostasis, and so it produce it more. Um, so I mean, even that, like there was this kind of thing where people were chemically, I guess talking about these little molecules that create these cascading things, these anaerobic effects and stuff like that that change the game. But I think also this kind of focus, this aggressively lustful focus in young men because it's at its height, and so a lot of times, and also I think that almost mentally I'm wondering if we perceive each uterus kind of as this plot of land that we can fertilize, and is there a because ultimately we want our DNA to survive. I mean, I'm not a religious person. I know you're
right.
not. So the real mortality is moving your genes to the next level. My genes will live in him,
Yeah.
and each I guess vagina, like, for lack of a thing, or uterus is an opportunity.
Receptacle for
Yeah,
our
right.
seed.
It's
Yeah.
it,
Whether you are cognizant of that or not, yeah, the motivator behind that psychology, and then by extension that behavior is what you've just described. Yes.
right. So a lot of times, if I'm counseling somebody who's going through a guy who's going through a breakup and he's just in such a bad place, and so, and then they just I can't get over it, and I just can't. And even though when you ask these questions, they'll be talking about how they were disrespected or how the girl she didn't want to have sex with him, or whatever the case may be. And women the same thing, vice versa. But this kind of pair bonding and them wanting to be with this person. So I always try to what the way I try to get a guy out of it is I try to have him think about it in a cognitive way, so to kind of like what you were saying, understanding that it's coming from that lizard brain, and then move it into sort of this kind of intellectualization of what's gonna go. So you love her, yeah, man, I'm loving. I can't get past that. I can't stop talking about. And I go, well, what do you like? I mean, what do
Mhm.
you like? You like the way she cheated on you, or you like the way he cheated on you? You like the way he was abusive? You like the way she was abusive? You like the way she did cut you off? That she control? You know what I mean? And then they go, yeah, well, I didn't really like that. And then once they separate, the only thing they remember is the good stuff. They
Yeah.
don't they if they get back with the person and they get back in a relationship and they're like, oh,
Miserable again. Yeah.
now I remember. Um, but this kind of cognitive thing. So I also have this. There's something else that I deal with, and this is. I want you to know that like I really appreciate you coming on, but
Yeah.
this is scary for me. Having you on is really scary for me
What are you
because
talking about?
I'm going to tell you why. Because I make a living off of consulting with guys and putting this content. And I've been talking about this stuff, what my belief system is, and how I believe there's this instinctual bed, and on top of that, there's this culture and cognitive idea of what it is, and just through the patterns and stuff I've come, and we're pretty on point, but I'm like the flat Earth guy
No,
that you know,
nothing you're saying is controversial. This is all pretty well established and well understood stuff
yeah,
on a pretty basic level. Yeah, I mean, and I can rattle off, something about a hormone induced cellular cascade with a basic understanding, but
right,
I'm not a relationship expert. Like I would never dare counsel anyone going through a breakup. I can tell them what I think, right, and I can
right,
talk
right, right,
about experiences that I've had and ways that I think about has happened in my life, and maybe that's applicable to somebody. But yeah,
right.
I would not be a good like relationship coach or psychologist or anything like that. I don't think I'd be good at that.
And I'm not trained for it. It's just me giving my opinions. But I think bringing you on and kind of putting me is really putting. I'm asking these questions. I'm saying this is what I think, and am I wrong in this? Am I fucked up in this? Which kind of goes to how I make my living. Is is doing these consultations. So but I think it's important for me to put myself out there in a way where, okay, am I thinking in the right way? Because I'm always striving to be better at it, because I really want to help people. I want
Mhm.
guys and women to have better relationships, and so to not put this at, to question the science of it is, it's a little scary, because I could be wrong. I could have been wrong.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
I haven't heard anything you say that would be, specifically inaccurate. Like I said, it's all, pretty basic surface level evolutionary psychology stuff. I mean, it's
right.
not nothing controversial here. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting that you even call it evolutionary psychology, or because I've always kind of
Yeah.
believed that, and I even,
Yeah.
after when I told you I wanted you to come on, I was doing some research, and a lot of things were lining up. So I was like, okay, at least I'm on the right. And I'm always working to try and perfect that. Here's something that I say a lot of times. So I have this thing. So say a guy calls me up and he says, I I don't know how to get girls. I'm horrible with girls. I can't. I'm whatever. And can you help me? So I have this process where I call it laying the 5 bricks. Right. And what it is it's I tell a guy to go out, right, and pay a compliment to a woman, 5 women a day, every day. The compliment cannot be sexual, right? It has to be honest, right? And it's not just women that you find attractive, right? And you do it 5 times a day, every day, for a period of time. And then they'll do it for a period of time, and then they'll call me up and we'll consult, we'll talk about it. One of the things that what I'm trying to do when I do that is I'm trying to eliminate the fear and the anxiety that guys get, because um so this is like basic kind of biology. It's the whole flight or fight kind of syndrome. It's that when you have emotion, when you allow emotion to have a seat at the table, it is much more difficult for for your brain to respond intellectually, because of the fight or flight. I estimate that when you're afraid and you have that anxiety, you can reduce your brain proficiency, by a third. That's my estimate. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I guess it would probably, depend on how afraid you are. But the simple idea of, just like public speaking or anything, but
Yeah.
just
I was going to say
address,
musical performance or something, stage
yeah,
fright. Yeah.
the
Same thing.
the repetition in which you do it is when it becomes more comfortable with you. When it becomes more comfortable, then you can mitigate the fear. When you consistently do it, I think you can almost eliminate the fear. And what I'm really trying to do is eliminate that fight or flight situation, because we have this sophisticated society where you're not really in danger, but those are instinctual evolutionary elements that
Yeah.
pop up. Good. You were gonna say something.
No, just it's funny to think of it that way, as a fight or flight situation. When you're not threatened, you're
Right.
just trying to get something that you want, right?
Right.
It's like, trying to get food, or so you can survive, but it's
Yeah.
actually just, can I get a date with this
Yeah.
girl?
Or
But
can I
yeah,
not
there's
be
some overlap
rejected?
there.
Or,
Yeah,
can I just not be rejected?
sure.
And so I'm always kind of like I was really good at solving problems. And so one of the things that I do, at least in the first phase, you are not allowed to get the number, right? All I'm asking you to do, pay the compliment. You have to observe to pay the compliment, right?
Mhm.
And the observation kind of, I feel like it settles you in a sense where you have to be present, right? So you can't pay a compliment if you're not paying attention, right?
Mhm.
But you also have, um because the part of the things I say, you are forbidden to get the number, at least at the first phase. You're not allowed to get the number. All I
Mhm.
want you to do is pay the compliment and keep it moving. You also are not supposed to look for a response, because what happens, what I think the psychology of it is, that if you're looking for the response, now that the social interaction becomes transactional, right? And the
Mhm.
minute it becomes transactional, then you feel like you could lose something, which kind of triggers the fight or flight. That kind of evolutionary thing of the fight or flight. Even though it's not real, it doesn't matter. You
Mhm.
feel it's real, and now
Sure.
you start freaking out.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's a fun exercise.
And I've had so much success with guys kind of doing that. Um, in a way that just the repetition of it makes them more familiar.
Yeah.
The fact that it's not transactional, the fact that they're not, and then I've had guys I do, and nobody listens to me. They always do a version of what I tell them to do, or they bite off more. Well, she talked to me, and then I told you, you're not allowed to get the number. You're not
Mhm.
allowed. So the fact that I go and I'm kind of the arbiter. So the other thing is that I'm the agency that's overlooking this process, and I'm saying you are not allowed to get the number. Not that you're not you want the number, but you can't get it. It's that you're not supposed to get it.
Mhm.
And then as they go through this process, the first thing that happens is on a cognitive level, whatever that fear is that they had is it's never as bad as they thought it was going to be. You know,
Mhm.
um, their expectation is that, oh, I'm going to get cursed out. And especially with the whole Me Too thing, where and we're not talking about you nice tits. We're talking about, wow, I love your
Yeah.
hair. That's a cool t-shirt. I love your jacket. Nice shoe. You know what I mean? Just very
Yeah.
simple
Very
things.
few women are hostile towards innocuous comments, genuinely
Right.
innocuous comments. Yeah.
And even when I find this, even when you compliment somebody about what they do instead of who they are, it, like you said, it's very innocuous. So, and I learned it. So I was a male stripper for 10 years. I know I don't look like it, and there's no internet. There was no
Mhm.
internet back then. But one of the things that I remember is like, so I would be in this room with 800 women screaming my name. It was just crazy sexual energy and whatever. But the girl that always, the compliment that I liked, they were like, man, your performance was so dope. You dance so, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Whereas I would have other women would go, is that all you in that G string? Like, it just was like, I felt you get a sense of what a woman feels like when the guy is just
Mhm.
creating her. Whereas when I was complimented about, because I created a routine, and then I sewed my own costumes, and it was like a confidence came, or I guess a pride of the fact that I actually did something. So
Yeah.
you're
It's a validation of who you are. Yeah.
yeah, as opposed to what you are, I guess would
Mhm.
be yeah, who you are instead of what you are.
Yeah. Or parts
And
that you have. Yeah.
yeah, and then I think what happens is women respond to that in a different way because it's a sincere compliment. I mean, even when you're a little more sophisticated, I've been in a gym and I've complimented a woman about her back. But I said something very specific, like, "Wow, I just wanted to say your traps are amazing," right? And they go, "Really?" And they just love that
Yeah.
because how many pull-ups did she do? How many bent over rows? How many to achieve that? So what I'm really complimenting is the
The
work she
process.
put in
Yeah.
and the progress as opposed to the object. I forgot my point now.
I mean, the thing is that all of this stuff is like there's a difference between confidence associated with approaching women or the opposite sex or whatever, and like valuing yourself as a person, right? It's
Right.
like this is like if you develop that skill of like and we all have that friend. Like I have one or two friends, one in particular is just like this fucking smoothest guy in the
Yeah,
world,
yeah,
and just
yeah.
like
They're like born with it. Right,
yeah,
right.
has that skill down. I, on the other hand, I'm not like I don't like approach women in that way, but that's just totally or relatively unrelated to like how you see your self worth and like how what value you can provide to that.
Right,
Once you get past that phase, like you still have to be someone that they want to go out with, right?
right, right,
That's I've focused more on the latter, and in my personal life, that's how I ended up becoming someone
yeah,
that I feel has value to the
right,
opposite sex. But
right.
I guess, both, but yeah, that aspect never really applied to me. I just, came of age in the online dating world, and it's like I just
Yeah.
never really approached women in that
Yeah.
way at all.
But I think also, but I think what happens sometimes is when you have that anxiety, which again is chemical, right?
Mhm.
You don't get to be. It's almost like you don't get to operate on your you they don't get to see your best self. Like you're
Yeah.
operating on a sub level because of the fight or flight kind of thing and the anxiety, and now you
Sure.
fumble and you say something stupid or you forget or whatever. Even the
Yeah.
things that even if you're not like you talk about these guys who just we all had guys like that were just super smooth and
Yeah.
it's almost like they
It's
were born that
infuriating.
way.
I'm just so envious of it. I'm like, "How do you do that? I just don't get it. I want that skill." But,
but it's but it's um But it's a skill. It is a
yeah.
skill, and if you analyze it as a skill, but you can't teach the skill if on the base of that,
Yeah,
you're
and
talking
what
about
you're saying
somebody who
applies to, like, a first date as well. It's not
yeah,
just, like, approaching a woman, like, you
right,
go on a date with there yeah, I definitely have had friends also just, like there's always those people out there that are just, like, hopelessly nervous and sweaty on a first
yeah,
date, and, like, you
yeah,
kind of need to and I'd say for me, it was more like dating a lot in my 20s. It wasn't about like approaching women at a bar or something like that. I never ever did that. But
right,
still, just going on dates and getting to that point where it's like, here's a date. Okay, whatever.
right,
Okay, like
right.
it's
Maybe
what
it'll work, maybe it won't.
maybe not.
I'm
Yeah,
yeah, just do the
date
repetition.
number
Yeah,
200, whatever it does. It just yeah. So it's
yeah.
similar, similar psychologically.
But there's also that, I think that there's that evolutionary kind of thing that that fight or flight thing that was present, and even though it's not a reasonable thing in the context of in a society, this advanced society where we don't have to worry about that, but it still affects us and it's still triggered, and so my first step is usually to eliminate that, to just get them, because even those guys who are sweaty and have this anxiety, they
Mhm.
all have a place where they're not that. Maybe in their Dungeons and Dragons group, or
Right.
if they're at Comic Con or whatever it is. And so, but to me, it always just seemed logical that if you have that, like even if you're not the guy, the smooth guy that just annoys all of us, um, you being able to be the best version of yourself by removing the emotion and just letting you be yourself,
Yeah.
but a limit. But the thing is, my perspective on that is absolutely the the fact of the fear, the anxiety.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I think
it
a lesson that everybody ought to learn early on is that being unapologetically yourself and not giving a shit
yeah,
is pretty much universally regarded as attractive among men and women.
yeah,
And you
yeah,
just like, if you're lucky, you figure that out early on. Otherwise, it's a harder lesson to learn. But I feel like I learned that maybe
yeah,
around college age.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that was pretty good. Yeah.
Well, you're lucky because there's guys. I mean, I'm counseling guys who are 50 years old who still don't forget it.
Yeah.
They haven't figured it out, or they've been married and I met the person that met them in high school. I married them, and I never had any, you
Right.
know,
Yeah. Never an opportunity to kind of define yourself as who you are sexually, romantically, etc., as a
mm,
singular identity outside of the context of I am half of this particular relationship. Yeah, it's people like it's crazy to me that culturally, like my parents got married, they were like 20. My
yeah,
sister was born, my dad was 21. It's like, oh my god, like I just can't. How can you? It's like I think that it's you really need to like have a few relationships and kind of
yeah,
figure your shit out before
yeah,
you pick your life partner. I just think that that's true, and people can
yeah,
do whatever they want. And obviously, sometimes you just find some people get married at 19, and that is who they should have married, and
yeah.
that just happened that way. But I think you should date around a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think also that the fear of that of not having the experience. Like my nephew, I mean, we don't get along any, but he I remember he had a really rough time. His mom was like very overbearing and very controlling, and he never had any confidence. But it was I mean, he was a really handsome dude. Like he, was about 6'2". I mean, like handsome, like model handsome like that, but just no confidence and
Mhm.
just failed with women. So, and then finally, when he did find somebody that was interested in him, I remember him having a very limited amount of relationships to kind of figure it out, but he got her and he was like, and I was like, look, let me, this is kind of what I do. Before you get married, let's why don't you hang out with me? We'll we'll
Yeah.
see what's out there. And he said, and I looked me in the face and said to me, it was so hard for me to get this one. I don't know if I'll get another one. And I'm like, there's no way
Yeah.
we could be related. We need to check the DNA because this is insane. But his wife, super abusive, super controlling, super. I mean, he literally married his mom. Kind of controlling
Mhm.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, and so man, it's a really sad thing. And and I was telling you how I kind of was the origins of Patrice O'Neill, this comic that passed away. We were the origins of this whole red pill. But what happened is these guys took, guys like Myron and all these knuckleheads and Sneeko and all these dudes on the internet, and Andrew Tate, they took these things and they took away the human aspect of it, the fact that in order to have a society, there's a there's an empathy. You have to have an empathy.
Alpha.
Yeah, it's just it's so absurd. Which is interesting because when people talk about people being alpha, the absurdness of that is the fact that shows how insecure you are
Yeah.
because
People
you're
who self-identify as alphas are gammas. There's
yeah.
no two ways about it.
And it's like, hey, everybody, I'm in charge. But being able to relinquish the control of somebody who's just more fit to do it. So it's funny because we talk about the whole Lord Jamal thing. I called you. I was like, hey, I don't have I don't have the ability. I know he's wrong, right?
Mhm.
And I know that I could probably fight him, but I haven't done this in a
Yeah.
way like he was just throwing. I mean, it was amazing because he was just throwing so much stuff, and I was just so much stupid shit coming at me, and I couldn't even. I was like, you panic,
Yeah, you
and
need a little training.
yeah, and I was like, I gotta get. Let me. I'm gonna go get somebody who could do this, who does this,
Mhm.
and I think that's the same way I look at the whole relationship is this thing. This is what I do, and so when somebody calls me, oh, this is what's going on, is instantly questions that I mean because it almost becomes a script after a while. Well,
Sure.
how did your mother how did your
And
mother
it
and
sounds
father?
in this case, we are describing your nephew's relationship. I mean, it
Yeah,
sound like I don't even need to meet the guy.
yeah, y-
I
y-
immediately understand exactly who you're talking about, the
yeah,
kind of relationship he's in,
yeah.
how it's not right for him, but, what are you
But
gonna
just
do?
this hopelessness of like, this is all I'm ever gonna get,
Yeah,
and it's just this. It's a really sad thing because um her his wife doesn't ever she'll never grow in the way and grow into a real kind of relationship that helps her be the best person, and he will never have it either, and he's fine with that, and so I was like, all right, I guess we'll
your
do that.
funeral.
Yeah, man. We've been going like an hour already. That was so quick. But man, I really appreciate you. And I want to say this means so much to me, Dave. I mean, I really
Yeah,
want to say, man, I really appreciate you. I really appreciate the
no
fact that you
problem.
make yourself available to this. And this was a little spooky for me because I have these ideas and I'm like, and I'm asking you, what do you think? Here's where I'm at and what I think is, but I think that's the real point. The point is that you don't get better unless you put yourself out there in order. And man, this is really dope, man. Thank you so much. I
You bet,
really,
yeah.
really, really appreciate
My
you, man.
pleasure.
And
Happy to
anything
do
I
it.
can do to help you, anything at all. I want to have you back on Godfrey for this.
For sure. Yeah, yeah.
You
Let me get to that moonlighting denial stuff and kind of I'll once I do a video on it, I'll have all my
I gotta
rebuttals
really. I
ready
think
to go.
the video that I looked at was. I think it was like it wasn't just like you kind of just do your own content, right? And
Yeah. Mhm.
but this was kind of like a company, a media company that puts these whole extensive videos with the editing
Pseudo
and it.
documentaries, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll send you something as soon as I get. Thank you so much, man, and I wish the family the best. Which I'll be in touch. as soon as I get this stuff together, and let's talk and let's bring that up. And I'd love to have you on again, man.
Sounds good. Happy to do it.
I mean, I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right. Take it easy.
Later. So there we go. Let me shout out real quick. Thank you so much, Angela Washington. Thank you for the super chat. Aloha, greatest conversation question. What books are you reading right now? Angela, real quick in the chat, let me know. Are you talking about the stuff that we were talking about, or the books I'm reading? That I'm reading in general. Just put a comment. Big shouts to Xavier. Xavier, also, thank you so much for the Cash App. The $5 in the Cash App. I really appreciate that as well. Hold on, let me see. Shit, that's not gonna work. Hold on. Let me move that. Can't have that in the front of there. Shit. How did I do this? Okay, there we are. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm gonna open the phones up. That anybody has any questions. I mean, I'm gonna shut it down in a hot minute, because I mean that was I think that was really dope. I just want to, that I wanted y'all to understand that there's a scientific basis to some of the stuff that we're talking about, like some of the principles. I didn't go over everything. But I mean, we literally went over the fight or flight. We went over the instinctual drives. We went over the monogamy, the breakups, the pair bonding, male and female pair bonding, and how that works. Phone lines are open, 929-269-4922. I'm going to give like 5 minutes to take any calls, any questions anybody wants to ask. I can do that real quick before we shut down. And if not, man, I'm tired. I'm ready to shut this down. Books I'm reading in general. Angela, I'm reading right now. What am I reading? I'm reading Plundered. The book is called Plundered, and it's by Bernadette Atuhene. The book is called Plundered. So that's that. Xavier said closing that Pornhub. I think with the phones up, let me just check to see. Angie, do me a favor. Call the line real quick, and let me just see if the call the line real quick if you can, Angie. I want to hear your voice today, if that's okay. Call the line. Call the 929-269-4922. Just want to make sure the phone lines are up. If you can, they're open and ready to take calls. So if you can, that would be great. If you're still Angie, please just call me and say hi. Yeah, I kept saying that this particular talking to Dave, because Dave is a science dude, and he, and there's a lot of claims and stuff that I make on this show, on this live, and I just really wanted to be on point. Let's see.
Angela. To accept, press.
Angie, what's up, babe?
Aloha. How are you?
How's everything? Thank you for calling. So I just want to make sure that the lines were working, and I figured I would say hi and thank you so much for the super chats and the cash apps and all kinds of stuff. You're just such
No worries. Thank you guys you guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Like, I stumbled upon you guys, Godfrey, in your pod, and I'm like, this is awesome. So I thoroughly enjoy everything that you guys share, the entertainment, the knowledge, everything. So I just like to give my little support.
Thank you, Angie. I really appreciate it. How'd you like Professor Dave?
Oh, I think I just keep thinking about that one episode, but with Lord Jamar. But I think he's pretty cool. You know, I actually think that they could do another sit down. Like, I really feel like they could come to like an understanding. You know? What I mean?
No, you can't. Not with Lord Jamar. It's just
really?
The disrespect is so. high, and the fact that when you don't know what you're talking about, and you resort to ad hominem attacks, and say it's because you don't know what you're talking about. But I'll tell you this: what's interesting is Godfrey has a little bit of conspiracy theory in him too, and I'm working on that every day. And so he has this thing about the moon landing being fake,
fictional.
But he also won't do the research to find out if it's true or not, which is what really pisses me off most. So if you, I'm just not somebody that likes talking about something and don't know what I'm talking about. And that's kind of why I brought Professor Dave on, and because there was a lot of things that when I do man school and I'm teaching men and women relationships and stuff, this episode is really scary for me because he could have actually said, "You don't know what the fuck you're talking about." What you're saying, all of these things that you've come to think is true is not true, and shut your mouth. Which you could have said. I mean, I don't think he would have done that.
Right.
But still, I'm questioning myself, and I think that's important. That's a lesson that I listen to everybody who's on this live, the hundreds of people that are on this live, is that if you want to be attractive to somebody, then you have to be willing to grow and be a better person. And sometimes that's scary. I mean, all the time that's scary because you're afraid of failing, so thank you so much for your support. You really give me
absolutely.
You warm the cockles in my heart. I'm not sure what cockles are, but you warm them, whatever they are.
I'm actually going to try to get my son to, I want to gift him with one of your consults because, he's 24. He just got back from the Army. He did 4 years. So he's back home. And, I could tell he's trying to, gain his footing and be on his own, and relationships are not.
Well, really Army guys are the worst. and it's
God, don't tell me that.
I mean, they're not the worst as people, because thanks for the service, but I'm just figuring this stuff out because the Army is such a sanitized thing that everybody you are directed. Your life is directed. You do this, then you do this, and then even if was he overseas as well?
He got deployed, yes, but he was in Lithuania, so he wasn't in combat.
Yeah, man. But if you're in Lithuania, 20 rubles will get you laid. So
right. Oh God.
So you don't really, it's a weird thing. It's like, a lot of times who consult with me and guys who listen to my content, they go, they go to these other countries, and then it's like you're Superman that just went to the planet with the yellow sun, and all of a sudden you can fly and and you got freeze breath and X-ray vision because the women, the women here is way different. I mean, and I'm not unaware of the inequality that women deal with here, but it's way different. You be talking loud in Saudi Arabia, you can get hit with a rock. So it is. So, but then you get young dudes who are out in this and they don't learn no game. I mean, the same thing is true with NBA guys. Right? These guys, because it's really difficult for them because they come out, they're kids, they haven't had any experience, any relationships or any sex or relationships or any kind of social interaction they had is because they were head of the basketball team or they were at the top, and they already had it. So they never had to earn any attention. They got it automatically, and it was just set up for them, and that's why. They get, we had I don't know if you're a big basketball guy, but Zion Williams guy who came out of college, and then he's hanging out with this porn star and I love you, we're gonna be together, it's just and you're like, dude, what are you, I mean, she's sucking dick 5 at a time, and you're
no.
Yeah, it's
God, but he's special.
Yeah, she said, yeah, it's crazy. And then she tried to sue him because he had told her he was going to marry her and all. It's just crazy. So, but you know, the armed service is the same thing because everything is so ordered in a direction, and now when you get that freedom, and now you like, I mean, no disrespect, but I mean, that's what happened to Carmelo Anthony and Lala. You know, they, you know, she snatched him. You know, he was 20 years old. You know,
right?
So
true. We forget that. I think we forget that.
Yeah, it was wild. But Angie, thank you so much for calling in. Thank you for the support.
Yeah,
I appreciate you.
absolutely.
All right. Speak to you soon.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All the other people that come into the chat, I don't want to say that y'all not special too, but you know, we all in this together. Shout out to Anthony and all the rest of y'all, man. I hope y'all enjoyed this episode, man. It was something a little bit different. I just wanted to, you know, this was sort of a challenge for me. To be honest, it was a challenge for me because, you know, I know that I do works, what it works, and that, you know, I can move people through the process of just teaching this stuff. But it's really nice to understand that there's a scientific basis of this built in hormones and dopamine and evolution and stuff, and why this stuff works. So amazing. Real quick. Big shout to Xavier too for the Cash App. I didn't really push the Cash App. I didn't want to interrupt because Dave was, you know, gave me his time, and that was dope. So if you really want to support this show, you really like what I'm doing and that I'm pushing this forward, please sign up for the Patreon. And it's Manschool 202, www.manschool.com/manschool202. You can support us there. That helps like the regular, keeps the all day-to-day business and stuff going. You can also book a session, book a one-on-one session, DanteNero.com. You can click on consult. Please don't forget to like and share. And if you like this, what we're doing, man, when an episode goes up or the clips go up, send it to somebody that you know, because we all got people that need to hear this stuff. So I super appreciate you all. And man, love y'all, and just keep supporting and keep doing the work and being better and learning how to access happiness in your own life. I love y'all, man. Peace. GYBB, get your balls back. WWDD, What Would Dante Do? The Sexual Revolution is being podcasted. Yo, I love y'all, man. Thank you. Appreciate y'all.